All right, I got the trimmer cap in there for the antenna trim. It was really an experience, and then after I got it all in there, I realized there's even a simpler way. Getting it out is tough. These things, these offset screwdrivers, they only click in say 6 positions all the way around. The clicking isn't fine enough, so if you get caught in a little section, uh, you could still get some, it'll hook and you could still get some movement. No. So this didn't work. I used a pair of needle nose pliers to loosen the screws. Several days, all different things. So I get the trimmer cap out of the radio, and I realize it's 50 picofarads on this model, and I send away, and I messed up on the first person. The second person sent me the correct trimmer cap, but in a different box, and it freaked me out. It was the same number as the one I ordered by mistake. Well, anyway, I get the trimmer cap in there, and I used a cooking skew with a tip from a jeweler's screwdriver, taped to the end, and I used that to turn the screws in, just to get it, the screws back on the tuning cap in the chassis. Got them snugged up as much as you could using a piece of wood. So then I come in with, I have two different models of this. I have all kinds of offset. They don't click. They don't click fine enough, to be able to do it. It's like the old days with the ratchets. The Snap-on had a ratchet that clicked more degrees than a cheaper ratchet. And then later on, the cheaper ratchets, more degrees, and then cars got more complicated and it didn't help anyway. But so with the shaft out, I was able to use a wooden skew and go in through the front, in through here, all the way to the back, and get the screws turned and get them on the thing, get the trim cap mounted inside the chassis. But I had no way to straighten them or tighten up the screws. So I started thinking, remember a few months ago, I was all excited I found a coat hanger in the street. All right, so what happened was, if you see on the tip at the end of that, that's a Phillips head screwdriver cut into there with a file. I made a screwdriver out of a piece of coat hanger. Now, when I was younger, I used to turn these coat hangers into screwdrivers all the time to get into a certain spot, but it was always a straight slot screw. And now this radio has a Phillips. Well, so I got it in there, and using this, I was able to tighten it up. All right. Now, what I want to tell you is what I should have done. See, hindsight's 2020. I should have mounted the trimmer cap using Allen screws, 440 Allen screws, or Allen head screws, and then using an Allen key coming in from the side, right angle, I could have tightened them down. That's what I did wrong. But, I put it back with original parts, and that was a mistake. Now, remember the shaft on the trim cap that I bought, got to remember the number now. I must have said it a million times. APC-50-B. The shaft is slightly shorter, and you're going to have to make up for it somehow. And the original coupler almost works. So what I did was I used a motor coupler for a stepper motor. It's a quarter inch to quarter inch flexible shaft, and that's what's in there. Everything's fine, got it together. But I did want to tell you that if you ever do that antenna trim and you can get those original screws out, I used the needle nose pliers coming in from this angle over here, back here, my inner frame coming in from over here, and that's what I used. And then going back, never thought of using Allen screws, okay, or Allen head screws. But that's what I wanted to tell you. It wasn't fun at all. Several days I worked on a little bit at a time. I thought about it. Of course, after I get it all in there, I realized that I could have used Allen head screws, and that would have made life easier. But it's all because these only click so many degrees. they're not real fine. So if you only have a limited space, like say this much, the ratchet never works. And that's how the old, a really good automotive ratchet set, they gave you a ratchet handle uh, later on that had more ratchet. The ratchet was finer, but you couldn't load it down as much when you tightened up. You could break the little the paws or whatever they used to call them in there. But just want to tell you, this is the hardest part to change on this chassis. And that's why the person recapped the radio, realized that that thing was bad. Then, of course, the knobs. When you look at this radio enough, you realize they loaded this chassis back up with junk. This did not break in shipping. They had this from another crash. Notice the metal reflector is not in the knobs. See, I told you I'll never be as smart or sneaky as the people on eBay. You know, somebody did recap this radio, and after I get, today is, I have to put this, I had to take this, am I in the frame? I had to take this dial off in order to get this out. So, I think I showed you enough and gave you enough tricks. And when you work on it, you won't think you're losing your mind. But these radios, they weren't meant to be serviced. Or they just had they would just take this whole assembly off, work on it off to the side, put that trim cap back in, and then put it back on the radio. And that was just, and also those trim caps may have never gone bad back when they did do service on this radio. Say this radio come out in 1948 to 52 they made them, something like that. Now, how many years after 58 do they service them? But that trim cap, if that's shorted or messed up, you lose a lot of signal, maybe all the signal. So after a while, it gets very frustrating. And if you find a spot where you turn it where it's not shorting out, and you go up the band, what happens is you lose signal because you've tuned the front end for a different frequency. Now you're going to a different frequency, and it basically attenuates the signal. So as you change frequencies on this radio, you retouch the antenna trim, and that gives you more signal versus one that doesn't track. Now, if you have a radio where the capacitors track, they don't track the antenna. You put a 30-foot antenna on the radio, and it'll be good in certain part of the band. And that's what they figured out. They figured out if you keep retrimming the antenna, you get maximum signal into the radio. And the better radios have antenna trimmers on them. Even the military ones, even the command radios have a little antenna trim on there. And it's not for transmitting, it's for receiving. And then once you catch on what the parts you have to have on a radio to make it really good. Now this radio has the 3 IF cans. You gotta have 3 IF cans. All right, it's simple. So you'll see you have 3 IF cans. Also, I believe there's 2 chokes on this radio. This might be one here. 2 power supply chokes. You gotta have that. That reduces the hum. And really good radios to have this stuff. The only thing this radio doesn't have versus the, well, a few things, but the NC183 has a push-pull output. Now, people online say that this unit doesn't. It doesn't have push-pull. But push-pull amplifier is more oomph and more, it just sounds smoother versus, I think it's Class A that's in this one. Read up on Class A, Class B, Class C. I think C is the push-pull. Or it might be D and they just call it. Well, anyway, read up on this stuff. I have enough stuff in my head and I'm starting to forget stuff. And I'm also starting to realize that I don't have the patience for this stuff anymore. I really don't. That was really annoying. But that's what people sell on eBay. They sell you something that's broke. And they know it's broke. They're a dealer. They know the quick fixes. And then what they do is they steal the knobs off the radio and put it on one that's missing a knob. And then after a while, they have one sitting off the side, doesn't work right. They might say it powers up, and then you buy it. And of course, in my case, as long as I can still get the part or I can repair the part, I'm okay. But remember don't forget the Hellcrafters. Go look at that SX42 that I did. That guy sold that to me knowing that gear was broke. And he dropped super glue down through the radio trying to get it on that gear. So, but anyway, that's what he did. And then, I recapped the radio, I rebuilt it, I went all through all the IF cans. All the caps in that radio were leaky to shorted. And I get it all together, and I realized at the last minute I'm putting it together and the dial don't move. And I realized the guy, that radio was a basket case. But that's probably one of the best radios I have. But I just don't like it. I'm just not a fan of Hellcrafters. This radio, if I was younger, this wouldn't really aggravate me at all. But your dexterity in your hands goes as you get older. Your eyesight. And these LED lights, here, let me make sure this is in the frame. This thing is losing its ability to flex. The gooseneck on it is not working as well. It's wearing out because I used it a lot. But it's also an LED light. And when you shine it down into something, it produces really dark shadows. So the part that the light is hitting is real bright, but behind the part, just slightly behind it, it's jet black. It's like, I think it's Mercury, up on the planet Mercury, because there's no atmosphere or whatever. Things are usually, the sun makes it bright or absolutely dark. So one side is real hot, and the dark side is real cold. And that's what LED lighting is. So anyway, I just want to tell you, this is what I went through, so you'll know. And I saw a video where a guy, he changed the dial, and he used screws, and then they were in the way. And then he had to grind certain posts in there. Well, that's supposed to be mounted with rivets. I'm a rivet guy. My father taught me about rivets when I was little. I have a drawer full of rivets, and you drill those out, or grind them with a Dremel, and then you mark all the dial and everything, because the dial has to go with the mounting part, otherwise it'll be off calibration wise. Put your rivet in. You put the one side of the rivet on a metal. Use a butterfly. You could use a miniature anvil, and then you hit it on the other side, and you mushroom it out. And doing rivets, what it is very compact. So the guy used nuts and bolts, and then they were too big. And then he explained it. I'm looking at him like, why is he having trouble with that? He bought from the guy replacement dials. And I'm thinking maybe the guy says to use nuts and bolts. But rivet is a rivet. There's a rivet on them now. And I know about rivets. And I think those are 1/8. But it is what it is. I think that's it. All right. That's it.